right, what's going on, Garrett? How you been?
How are we doing today? Happy Tuesday. We have another great power session day, and I understand we're getting into some form building. Is that right?
That's correct. So we'll be looking at how to build custom forms, digital forms in the project management module, how to assign them to your jobs, and then we'll go through kind of the basics on how to schedule them or how to use those forms on a job by job basis. So
Excellent. Yeah, I know we've had a lot of questions come up lately on forms, and when you get in there, the tool maybe does look a little intimidating. So let's just maybe start with the basics and make it entry level, and hopefully give people something they can kind of build off and go on their time on their own.
absolutely. So let's
So
jump right to it.
yeah, let's see it.
All right. Okay. So for today, like we said, we're going to go through the custom form builder. I have a form that we'll take a look at that's built out, and then I have one that is kind of a work in progress to kind of show off the different features of the form builder. So if you have access to the area, it's under administrator, and it's going to be the form builder option down below. So once you click into it, it's going to give you a list of all of the existing custom forms that you have built in there. So if you haven't built any, obviously it'll be empty, but as you start building these in here, you'll be able to save them. You'll be able to pick which ones are published, which ones are not, and then you'll be able to manage which jobs can actually utilize these forms as well. Okay. So we'll get into the actual creation of these forms. So if I go into add new, it's going to give you a blank window. So you would name it. So if you wanted to call it an inspection form, you want to call it whatever you want to call it, right? We can just call it whatever we want here. Categories, you can pick and choose how to organize these. What this will mostly do is when you're looking at the forms here, you can pick and choose which categories you want to filter on. So that's all, just a way to organize them. So
Yeah, I know we have a couple of clients that maybe have 50 to 100 forms in there, and it makes it easier to kind of drill down on those with the filters.
Yes. So if you want to make changes, you want to pick and choose which ones are active versus archived. Categories are great. On the right hand side, this select sections, these will be what will populate at the top of the page. So if you don't want to type the project name or type the project number or who created it or some of these other fields here, selecting these will automatically put that at the top, so you don't have to fill it out each and every time. So if you've got your check boxes, the header description, all that's going to be is just some sort of description that you type here, will show up at the top as well. So if you don't need that and you want to change it per form, I would have that unchecked. If you want this to always show up on every single form, then I would have it checked. Okay. So if we go next, so there's quite a few options on the left hand side, and like Garrett said, when you get in here the first time, it can be a little intimidating just knowing what does what on the form builder. So we will go through the different sections here, what each of these can do or what they can do for you, and then I'll kind of explain like which ones are the more prominent ones that we see clients using or that we would use if we were building forms in the system. So starting here in the inspection tools, the container and the pass fail, these just work side by side. So if to add anything over to the form, you're just going to simply click and drag it over to the right. You'll be greeted with a lot of options when you add anything into the form builder itself. The couple that I would make note of, this is either title or label is how these will show up for all the different options. So this will be, what do you want to call it? So if we want to keep it container, if you want to say, what did we say? Work order notes, just something, right? Right, whatever you want to put in there. Okay, so the title or the label, however it's going to be called, will be important for what's going to show up here. The padding, the margin, you can usually kind of skip through those. They can be helpful to kind of tighten up some loose space in between them if you've got a ton of fields that you want to just kind of squeeze together. Typically it's okay as is. Now the label here, So in this case, the title is going to be the label. So if I actually wanted to hide it, I could check it and it would remove this off here. Otherwise, I can pick where I want to show it. So right now it's listed as top, so it'll sit above everything below, or you can have it to the left, you can have it to the right, and you can have it underneath it. So just a couple different options on where you want that label to exist. But for the most part, I would say those are going to be, there's a lot of stuff in here. Those are going to be the main couple of boxes to check. I would also look at the format option just in case you want to bold, italicize, underline it. That might be the only other field that I would say is pretty common that you might be editing here. Okay. So once again, the title or the label, whether you want the label to show up, where you want it to show up, and then potentially if you want to bold it, underline it, etc. Okay. So we've got our, in this case, the container. Now the container specifically is just for pass fails. So you can only drag these pass fails options in there. You can't drag anything else in there. So these will just be, you know, if I wanted our pass fail or not applicable, you can drag these pass fail options in there. And you can allow for comments or uploads, or if you want to hide the not applicable button. There are a couple different options for some of the different fields. So this would just allow a text box underneath it. This would allow you to upload anything with it. And if you want to rename them, so if I wanted to say yes or no instead, we can change it so that the labels here can be reflected of what you want to put in there. Okay. So
I like it nice and easy.
Yes, absolutely. Once we have them added, we've got all of our changes made here. We can just hit save, and then we can move on to our next option. So we've done our container. Pass fail is pretty straightforward here. Now the well, so this create area, so the well here is just a way to kind of outline a section or like border a section. So if you just want to kind of organize a couple of different fields in one section and then add a, you know, a separate well for a separate section just to organize it a little bit similar to how the container works. That's what the well option will be here. So if I just put something in there, it will then organize. So if I were to drag in any of these other options, you can kind of keep them all bundled together, if you will. So the different columns. So this just basically gives you the option to pick how many columns left and right you want to see in there. So if I wanted to put in that area, if I wanted to see just 2, and then I want a text box and maybe a selector or a date option, I can do that. In the columns, you can pick how many columns you want to add in here. So right now we just have 2. So if I wanted to add a third one, I can then just add the third one here. Now, the trick here is these need to add up to 12. So we would just do 4, 4, 4. And then you can put them all side by side here. Okay, so if I wanted a text box, a number, and an upload button or something like that, that's what the columns can give you. Okay, so we haven't defined what's in the columns. So if I wanted to put in, you know, something where I can type into these areas here, I can go to text field and just click and drag it right into that first option there. Now, once again, maybe I don't need the label for this. I just want a box. I don't need anything here, for example, let's just say. So I can hit hide label, and then I can save it. So how that works is when I'm actually going to fill out this form, I would have a free form text box here. Okay. If you wanted something to, maybe you didn't want a text box, maybe I don't want to type something in there when I'm filling out the form, I just want something to show in there, I can use label instead. So if I drag label in there, I can just have something that pre-populates into that box within the form. Right, that way it's always there. You can't change it. It's just meant to be a text box. Now there is a difference between text field and text area. For something that's going to be in the columns or within a section here, it's probably best to use text field. And the reason I say that is it's a set field. You can type what's in there, and it will just live within this section here. The text area is great if you wanted something that's going to be maybe a sentence, maybe it's a paragraph, something that can expand in length. So if I were to drag text area down below, right, I can say like additional notes, right? Now with the text area specifically, there's a checkbox here for can grow. So if you check that, what that just allows you to do is as you're typing these notes, it'll just continue to grow as you put more information in there. Right, so that's going to be the difference between the text field and the text area. Okay. So we've gone through the columns. The table is going to be pretty similar to the columns. It's just a way that if you wanted to organize, you know, how many columns, how many rows, you just want kind of a predetermined list of kind of a grid here. You can put that together. Now, for some forms, it may be more beneficial to use something like this if you wanted like customer name, customer address. You had like a section of text boxes that you wanted to fill out here, right? There's another option for, it's going to be the data grid instead of the table. So the difference there, the data grid, so you can pick and choose how many wide this is going to be just by adding different items in there. So if I wanted to add text box, I can save that. If I wanted to add another text box. Now, the benefit of the data grid instead is that you can add more fields as you're filling this form out. So if I go into a preview, right, I can type into here, and then I can add another one, and I can add another one, right? So that'll be the difference between what the data grid is going to be good for, is maybe I don't know how many line items I want to add into here. That is going to be the benefit of utilizing the data grid rather than the table. The table is going to be predetermined. You get this many rows, this many columns. That's what's going to be defined there. Okay. So good for like material sheets or things of that nature, right? So we'll go through pretty quickly here so I can get to the actual application of the forms as well. Some of the other kind of more useful, we talked about the label just kind of being the text box here, the text area being, you know, an option to type in information where it can grow. Checkbox, pretty straightforward. You can put, you know, did this pass inspection, right? And then you can have a checkbox, yes, no, pretty simple there. Multiple checkboxes, it can be useful. Obviously pretty specific there, but just give you an option to say, you know, which thing do we want to select there, okay? The select is going to be a drop down. So if I wanted to say select reason, blah, 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 blah. Now for this one specifically for the select, you would want to go to this data tab so that you can pick what your options are going to be in this drop down. So if I wanted to just put a yes, no, maybe, right? So I would drag my select, add my options, and then all that does is allow us to pick from a drop down with those three options in there. Okay. So that's our select. The radio is pretty similar to the checkbox there. Now, the advanced ones, this is where you can add an email, add a phone number, pick a day and time. Usually the day is better, mainly because you're just picking a calendar day as opposed to picking a calendar day and a time. So whichever is more useful, obviously, for the form that you're building. Currency, type in File is pretty great for uploading photos or just general files to the custom form here. So if I add that, you could say I want to upload photos, right? So that would just give you an option to click this, and then you can upload photos directly from the mobile app or from the web application of the form builder. Okay. And then signature is the last one I'll show off here. So just dragging that into here. What this will allow you to do is when you are filling this out, when you get to the bottom, you'd be able to click it, sign off on it, and save it. So it just gives you the option to sign it if that was necessary for the form that you needed to build in here, right? So let's say this is my new form. We would be able to save it. Once I have it saved, I can go back to the form builder here. And that was our test field work order. Now we just need to publish it just to make it active. Okay. Once it's published, we can go to the 3-dot icon, manage project access. So all this means is that we're picking which jobs can use this form. So maybe it's not all jobs, maybe it's certain jobs, whatever the case may be, but you would just go to manage access. Now you can either pick, maybe I just want those 3 jobs to fill out this form specifically, or I can hit select all and then just make sure you have this add to all new projects. So that way, as you guys create new projects in the accounting system, they will automatically show up in this list here. Okay.
Nice and easy. Now I can always go back and edit the form later if I choose, right?
Correct. To edit the form, all you got to do is go back to the form builder. You can click on the form. Now you can create a revision if you want to see what the original versus revision number 1 is. If you don't necessarily care because it's just a change that needs to happen, you could just go to edit form. Once you go there, then you just hit next, and it'll take you back to the form that you were working on here. So real quick, I want to stop for a question I see in the chat. So the question is, can you drag and drop existing external text into the text fields? The answer is yes. So if you're creating a label like we did here, if I just typed in something in a Word document, in a notepad, whatever, I can copy it. And I'm doing it on my other screen, but you get the gist here. If I go in here, I can then paste it, and then I can save it. So if you're wanting to, let's say this was a bunch of pre-loaded text, like at the top here, my inspection form, I wanted, a paragraph to live in there. You can have it typed out elsewhere, or if you already had that form in Word, you wanted to copy the text over here, you most certainly can. Okay. All right. So now that we've got our form created, now the next step is we've published it, we've added it to all the jobs. So when we go to the actual job itself, I'm going to use a different form just because I took some time to build out another form for what we're going through here. So once you click into the job, you're going to see the forms option. Now what you're going to see listed out over here are all the forms that have been published to be able to be used by this job. Okay, so we're going to use this inspection form here. So if I were to click it and I wanted to just fill one out, right, from the web application, I can just hit create new. And then I can go through and fill out this form. So in this case, this is my inspection form. I made a bunch of pass fails for this form. I use a text area for this action required. So if I wanted to type in a bunch of notes for anything in this general safety category, I most certainly can. Created a couple more pass fails here. Same thing, text area for any additional actions. Upload photos. So if I wanted to upload, you can click the button there. And if I go to my photos, I can upload my images here. I can type in any additional notes. I can sign off on it. create or type in name of the inspector, just in case maybe this was someone else, not me. I can sign it, type my name here. And then once I have all the information filled out, I can complete the form. And then from there, you can either just simply complete it or you can complete and email it. So if this was going to go to a customer, if this was going to go to somebody in the office, you could use this complete and email. Now, in this case, I didn't fill out all the required forms, but you would be able to email this document directly from the system. Okay. Last thing here. So that was just me kind of filling out the form. You can also schedule these. So like here, I have the inspection form scheduled for Fridays. You can go to schedule, you can pick your form, when it's going to start, and then do I want it on a daily basis, weekly, or monthly? So if I wanted this to be on Tuesdays for the next 10 weeks, I can hit create, and what it'll do is it will create a version of that on each Tuesday for the next 10 weeks. And then what you would be able to see there is the in progress ones. So these are all gray because I haven't completed them, but they would be green or red if they were overdue. Okay, so you would see this on your web application. You'd see all the scheduled forms on your mobile app, but this is where you would be able to apply those custom forms to your schedule.
Perfect,
Okay.
nice and easy.
I guess we can open it up here for questions. Try to be as concise as possible. Obviously, there's a lot you can do with the custom form builder and a lot of different formatting options. But I wanted to try and keep this as basic and as introductory as possible. So if you guys have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And yeah, so.
Yeah, I know we're a little over, but question on notifying users if something's overdue.
So right now, we don't have an in-app notification system for the overdue forms in the app or the web application. It is something that we are looking into, but it is not a feature that we have available today. Any other questions that you guys may have?
Looks like we're good.
Okay. Well, if you guys do, please let us know. Reach out to Garrett or I, and we'll be more than happy to help out. We'll make this we'll make the recording available so you guys can watch it later. But we appreciate you guys sitting in today on the form builder and best practices for it.
Yep, thanks for your time, Denver. And if anyone gets in there and needs some additional assistance, just let us know, and we'd be happy to jump on a call or help you online. So sorry if we took up an extra 10 minutes of your time, but hope you learned some things today, and we'll see you in 2 weeks I think we're doing financial statements next. So another good tool coming up.
All right. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys, and we appreciate you guys sitting down with us for today.
Yep. Have a good day, all.
Yep.
Thanks, Dee.